welcome back. I am outside today and I am finally going to enjoy this weather. My front porch needs some fixing up, so I thought I would bring you guys along for that with me today. If you're new here and you like home decor and DIYs on a budget, stick around by hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for notifications so you never miss out on a new video. All right, let's get to work. So the first thing I'm gonna tackle with this front porch is the edges of this concrete. So when we first moved in, the concrete was painted and it was painted red. And then I decided to paint it black, but it got really cold outside and I didn't get to seal it before the winter hit. So it was peeling all up. So Costco, when summertime came around, the year before last, Costco was selling these outdoor tiles, and they just like click and lock into place and you can cut them really easily. So I put them on here. They look a little dirty right now. I'll have to wash them off, but I put them on here and I like how they look. However, I can't cover up the edges. So I painted it black, but I don't like that because when you walk up the steps, sometimes you catch your foot and you knock these off. So what I'm gonna do is put some wood here, and we're just gonna kind of frame it out. So for the edge boards, I'm using pressure treated 1x8 by 12 feet, and I'm using 3 of them. I took the first board that's gonna be on the shorter side of the concrete, and I mitered the one side with my miter saw, and then I cut the length off of that. And then with the second board, it doesn't need any length cut off, so I just mitered the one side. And I did this so that way that outside corner on the porch will meet together with those boards more nicely, and it'll just look a little bit more clean cut. So I put them together and they worked perfectly. Now that third piece of board, I needed to cut down smaller, and then also to go around my concrete walkway, and I unfortunately made a wrong cut. Okay, so that board is not gonna work. I cut the miter correctly. I did not cut the step part right, where the concrete is, so I need another board. So while I wait for another board, I'm just gonna go ahead and attach these boards because these boards are right. But first I need to dig a little bit down so the boards kind of sit in the ground a little bit so they're more level with the concrete, and then I will attach them. To attach the boards, I used construction adhesive. I used 2 bottles of it, and I used some painter's tape. So I just applied the construction adhesive to the back of each board, pressed it up against the concrete, and then used the painter's tape to keep it in place so that way it could dry and it wouldn't move. This side was a little bit harder because it was slanted downward, so I wanted to make sure that it matched up with the concrete, but and looked right, but also kind of had that slant to it. So I used some pavers to just make sure that I had it propped up as well. And then I let this dry overnight. Okay, so I fixed my mistake. So everything is now glued on, and the painter's tape is helping to hold it to the concrete a little bit better. So I'm hoping this will dry overnight and it will stay pretty good. And then I will come back tomorrow and stain it. So now that that's done, I'm gonna move on to making some planter boxes. Okay, so for my planters, I wanted them to be tall, long, and narrow. And I've seen people make these and they have plans for them and things like that, but I kind of just winged it and did my own thing. So I used cedar fence boards. I used 6-foot cedar fence boards for my planters. And for each planter, I used 8 fence boards. So I just took 8 of them and cut them down to 4 feet. And then I'm taking 4 of them, as you can see here, and I'm laying them up against each other long ways. And then I took 3 2x2s and I cut them to what the length of the planter is going to be, the height of the planter is going to be. And then I'm just using those as braces to brace my boards together. And I'm just using my nail gun to nail those into place. And then for the side pieces, since I cut that 2 feet off of each of the 8 cedar boards, I had a lot left over to be able to cut those side boards. And like I said, I wanted this to be narrow. So my pieces, I believe, were 7 3/8 inches. And I just placed them up against those 2x2s and the side boards there. And I nailed them to each side with my nail gun. And then I just repeated the process like I did with those first set of boards that were cut to 4 feet, and I nailed the 2x2s in, and then I created that panel for my front or my back piece, and then I was able to just nail those side pieces into that front or back piece, whichever one you want to call it. And then I essentially have my planter. But I didn't think about bottom for my planter. So I took some scrap 1x2s and I just nailed those in between the 2x2s on the side. And then I cut scrap 1x2 to 4 feet. So I cut an 8-foot board to 4 feet, and I placed both of those boards inside across those 1x2s to hold everything up. And I'm just gonna be placing planters inside my planter, so the already existing planters just kind of sit nicely right inside there. But you could place some landscaping fabric inside there and staple it, and then that way you could place dirt inside of there if you wanted to actually plant inside of these boxes. And then for the fronts, I wanted to kind of cover up and make it just look a little more finished and nice. So I had some scraps of cedar fence boards. So I just cut them down to the height and I nailed those to the front. And essentially the planter box was finished. Now for one of my planter boxes, I wanted to make a trellis. So I took some 1x2s, I cut them to the height that I needed. I believe I did 93 inches. And then I spaced those out the length, which was 4 feet of the planter box. So I took 5 1x2s altogether. So I took 3 1x2s for the legs, and then I took 2 1x2s and cut them to 4 feet for the cross beams. So I just did one at the top and then did one at the bottom that was the height of my planter, and I just nailed all of those in. And then the last 2 that are in the middle, I just spaced them out as evenly as I could, and then I just nailed them down. I just kind of wing things and do things that look right to me, and I thought that this looked good. So I placed that behind my one planter box, and then I was done for the day. That was all I needed to build, and then the next day I could come back and finish everything up and paint. So that is what I did. The next morning I woke up and I took the painter's tape off of all of those front edge boards and made sure that the construction adhesive did adhere, and it is working well. It did adhere. It worked out good. So if I need to, though, I can come back and use concrete screws and screw them into the concrete, but I wanted to try to avoid that, so that way I didn't mess up the concrete in case I ever wanted to take these off. So now what I'm doing is I'm just staining the boards. I just used some special walnut stain and just placed the stain on and let it dry, and I think it matched kind of the cedar fence boards as best as I could. And then with the trellis, I just used some black spray paint that I had, and I spray painted the whole thing black. I did do the front and the back of the trellis just to make sure it all looked cohesive. And then I decided that I wanted to paint my door. It needed painted anyways. I put it in and we never painted it. So I had some black paint left over and I painted it black. If you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I asked you guys if I should paint it black, and some of you said yes, some of you said no. So I went ahead and did it. It's just paint. I can change it later on if I want to. But what I do to paint my door is I just brush everything on and then I come back with a roller and roll it to give me a smooth coat. And then that was it. I was able to make all of my finishing touches, add my wreath. I added this front door matte black and white that came from Amazon, and the other matte that came from Target. I added some tulips, and then in my planter boxes, the one with the trellis, I wanted something to climb up it, so I got a clematis vine and I'm placing that in the center there, and hopefully that will take over. And then I added some tulips to both of my boxes. I love tulips. I think they are so pretty for spring, and then I'll plant the bulbs later on when they are done. And that's it. Let's find out how it looks. I absolutely love how my front porch turned out, and it works for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a tulip emoji down below in the comments if you made it through the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.